Welcome to the WP Builds podcast, bringing you the latest news from the WordPress community. Now, welcome your hosts, David Wormsley and Nathan Wrigley.
Hello there. This is episode 84 of the WP Builds podcast, entitled Build 48 Websites in a Weekend for Good Causes with Adam Walker. It was published on Thursday, the 12th of July, 2018. My name's Nathan Wrigley from pictureandword.co.uk, a small web development agency based in the north of England, and I'll be joined a little bit later by David Wormsley from davidwormsley.com so that we can have our pre-interview discussion, which is called How Do We Get Clients on Our Care Plans? And then after we've had the interview with Adam Walker, we'll have our little ending fact, which today very succinctly is called Gutenberg. Please go over to the wpbuilds.com website where you can find all of the buttons underneath the podcast player. I have to say, I've been saying this sort of thing over and over again for weeks. I've been saying, please give us an iTunes 5-star review, and then never really explored that much further. And I'm delighted to say that we've got loads of 5-star reviews. I mean, I don't know if we've got loads, but to me it feels like rather a lot. So I'm really pleased. Anybody who listens to this and feels that they would like to do that, I would be most obliged if you can figure out how to press the iTunes button underneath our podcast player and then work out from there how to leave us a review. That's really, really great of you. Thank you. We have at /subscribe, so that's wpbuilds.com/subscribe. There's every conceivable way under the sun of subscribing to our bulletins and newsletters and so on. Excuse me. If you go over to /deals, you'll be able to find 20% off Toolset plugin, 25% off the main WP plugin, 80% off Blocks Party, and 20% off Blog Vault and Malcare. So yeah, maybe worth going to /deals. The other one to mention is if you go to wpbuilds.com/win, we have a competition on at the moment, and it's a competition for a unlimited license, an unlimited lifetime license for the Breezy Page Builder, and also 5 coupon codes to get yourself some money off should you fail to win the ultimate prize. So there we go. Right, what to say about Adam Walker? What a great initiative. He's set up this company, well, charity really, called 48 in 48. And they've decided that periodically throughout the year, throughout the world in fact, they're going to get a load of people in a room and give them the task of building 48 websites for charitable causes. It's such a lovely, phenomenally cool idea. He'll be on in just a moment, but yeah, if you stick around for that, that would be great. But for now, it's going over to me and David for our regular discussion. I hope that you enjoy this week's podcast.
And today's discussion is entitled, How Do We Get Clients on Our Care Plans? Luckily, Nathan, I have completely nailed this one. So if you want to take a little kip, I can take care of it and charge up for the interview. Everybody believes that's how the broadcast works.
Yeah, okay. I'll sit back. I'm going to recline in my recliny chair. Let you talk.
No, do you know what? I haven't got this figured out at all, because the majority of the websites that we've done before we had a proper plan, well, those folks are just not interested in coming on the plan at all. And I see lots of other folks in our community having this difficulty of convincing their clients to come on the plan, either new clients or old clients. So what do you do, Nathan?
I struggle with this actually, in that I offer it all the time, but I don't know what my percentage of clients coming on board are, but it's nowhere near all of them. I mean, nowhere near all of them. What I do is, right at the beginning, when we start out on the project, I drop heavy hints about it. And in the proposal, I mention it. And in any contract, I mention it. And I give them the URL to the page on my website where we list out all the reasons. And I've kind of adopted a little bit of the what I think works is a little bit of the fear of the fear tactics, if you know what I mean. You know, in the sense that you've got a website, but there are vulnerabilities and software must be updated and so on. So I take it from that point of view. Somebody's got to go in, update this stuff, and if it's not going to be you and you're not going to be proactive, then let it be me. And then from there on, I offer sort of like more interaction with me for more fees per month. So yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah. It's interesting. We were talking before, and it just shows how different businesses have to approach this differently, because I'm going for quite cheaper care plan where they don't get any of my time included in it. So I feel with the pricing that I offer, everyone should take it up. And actually, in some ways, I have nailed it, because since we got the care plan and changed how we approach the business, everybody has taken it up, because we start the conversation from the beginning. And I, just thinking about this topic, I kind of got it cemented in my own mind what I'm actually doing. And effectively, my business is selling hosting and care, and the website is an add-on to that service that I offer ongoing, because the website changes and I want that client for life. So yeah, the approach is very different.
Do you was there a moment where you suddenly changed the way that you speak, or the time that you introduced it, that allowed you to go from less conversions to this 100% conversion model? Did you start to speak about it in a different way, or encourage them to think about a different aspect of it? What was it that was promoting the sudden uptake?
Yeah, the change was just that it's the first thing we do. So when somebody's asking for some kind of price, we're just saying, here's the ongoing price. But it gives them the option to opt out. But because I'm doing a cheaper plan, and because the licenses for the products that we're using generally cost as much, if not more, than our plan.
Yes.
We nailed it in the first place, because you can say, well, you can either take all the stress yourself and pay for your licenses, or come with us where it's going to be cheaper and you don't get the stress. So that, in a way, sorted that out. But that's not a possibility for anybody who's going to put some of their time into that care plan.
Yeah. I mean, with your licenses, which licenses in particular, if you wish to discuss that? And presumably you're on an unlimited kind of license where you pay a bit more each year, annually or whatever, but then you spread that out over the care plans, and it enables you to be profitable.
Yeah, exactly. It's Beaver Builder in my case.
Yep.
But I mean, that would be the same with any sort of pro page builder that anyone was using. If the customers want that facility to be able to change their sites easily, then they would have to pay somebody for that anyway. So that's how we do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, I include a little bit of my time, and actually, I think that's for me, that works quite well, because the way I couch it often is, okay, so if you buy this care plan, you will get my time. And then I mention in the same conversation, I'll mention what my hourly rate is. And usually it's quite favourable. You'll get half an hour of my time a month, but you'll also get the backups, and you'll get the updates that I'll do. But the time equation, it can be quite powerful, because what I've discovered, most of the clients that are coming onto my care plans are people that two avenues really. Most of them are either they're pretty scared of the technology and they don't want anything to do with it because of the fear of breaking things themselves. So for them, they just want that reassurance of, look, you're going to take care of it because I'm a bit worried. Or there's the other side where the people are seemingly they're too busy, and they're working for a company where there's maybe a department that they're in, and they've been tasked with getting a website built, but they're too busy doing other things, and they just want to hand it over, not necessarily because they're frightened of it, they just don't have the time, and they just want to say, right, you do it, it's your responsibility, our budget will cover that, that's fine, just make sure that it all ticks over. But I get them to write out a list every month. Usually it ends up in a Word document. I just say, look, let's tackle the things in your bullet point list once a month. We'll do half an hour or whatever it might be. We'll go through the list, make sure to put it in order of the things you want to achieve, and clearly couch it in terms of, look, we can't redesign whole entire pages in half an hour, but we could change something that you would like a different colour on, or you want the position moving, or you'd like to introduce a new row or something like that. Or we would tackle the beginnings of a new page or something. And then we go through the list, and usually we don't get through the list, which means that at the end of that half an hour conversation, there's always that opportunity to say, look, what we'll do is we'll tackle the 4 things that we didn't do in next month's meeting, and that then kind of lines it all up for carrying on the subscription, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You just talking before we started recording just really made a lot of sense, because your pricing is pretty much in line with a good majority of people who have care plans with, similar time in it. And they always seemed expensive to me. And I just thought the majority of my clients just will not go for that monthly commitment. But when you couch it in terms of your hourly rate and on all the jobs that are done within that care plan, kind of, it seems, well, it's cheap suddenly again.
They're also going to be, anecdotally, whether they're in business and they don't have an hourly rate, or whether they're, if they're running their own business and they just cream the profits and whatever that is each month is what they get, or they're salaried and they're working in a department, they'll have some anecdotal idea of what an hourly rate should be. And I tell them mine, and nothing about that suddenly seems unreasonable, because let's say you're £50 an hour. And the website care plan is £100 a month. Effectively, you're saying that's 2 hours of my time. And then I send out client reports so that I mention, look, I've updated this plugin, this plugin, this plugin. And usually on a website in a month, there's quite a fair amount of those plugins that have got updated. Even if you're just using normal, you haven't got a whole array of plugins, you've just got 5 or 6, they get updated. And they get updated often multiple times in a month. And then I list out how many backups I've got, and I push Google Analytics data into those website care plan reports. And I think that is quite a powerful thing as well. So linking it to the hourly rate, I think is personally, I think that's a good thing to do, because everybody wants to get something for nothing, but most reasonable people will realise that's nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, it is tricky with the value of these things. And of course, it depends on your client, because I know other people have tried to do this, and I have with my old clients. I've tried to persuade, well, usually via my colleague, for people who ought to be on the plan to come on it because they have problems, but they don't, because it doesn't work if I try any scare tactics, because they think that I'm just trying to push up the value. I think, but actually, to be fair to them, most of the old sites that I used to manage before that haven't come on the care plan probably don't need it now until they needed a redesign, because a lot of those don't have page builders, so there's less moving parts.
Yep. I think it's not the sort of scare tactics that I alluded to earlier. The way I sort of couch it is that software is just vulnerable, and it needs to be updated. So it's more a question. It's a bit like Windows Update, If you don't keep updating your computer, you just start to open a window of opportunity for people, and they could do silly things like deface your site or take it down. And if the client has any interest in investing in a website, hopefully they've got interest in it being live all the time, so that the longer things are not updated, it feels a bit like selling insurance in a way, which is, I think, what it is. You're sort of saying, buy this and I'll make sure that it's at least up to date. There's no guarantees, because even the most up to date software, somebody's going to figure out a way through it. But at least you don't have to do it. And we're not trying to scare you like, oh my goodness, the sky is falling in, but just like, let us do it, then you can at least stop worrying about it, and we'll take the backup, so that if it really does go pear-shaped and it all disappears off the internet, well, at least we can get you back up reasonably quickly. And most people simply do not have an interest in doing that stuff themselves, or don't have the technical, they don't have the knowledge to do it. I was in a client website the other day, and I just showed them like backup body, and I just said, look, if you just click this button, you can get an extra backup. And it sort of occurred to me as I was doing it, actually, I'm explaining to this client my entire backup strategy for their website. But they rather than being appalled, oh, that's ridiculously easy, they were actually really pleased. They were kind of like, oh, so you mean I can do a backup as well as you? Yeah, that's it. And then just save it. And they thought that was great. They didn't see that as cheapening my care plan. They just saw that was a really cool thing.
Yeah. Do you know what? There's something that I've come to realize that is a value that we don't really talk about, and that's I mean, how many of your clients have been suckered into all sorts of bad SEO schemes or ad campaigns, they've been spammed at, and they've fallen for somebody else's tricks and that? I've noticed exactly. I've noticed recently, when we have that ongoing relationship with people, they go and drop you an email, we've had this, what do you think? And I just say, stay clear, and save them a lot of hassle. And I just think, that's undervalued, that long term. That's what I'm really focusing on. So in a way, I've gone slightly different to you. I've gone for the fact that if anybody's got any small money they can pay on an ongoing basis and I can make that profitable, I'll have it, but I'll be in your camp for as long as you want me, for all stuff,
I think that the meeting that I do with most of my clients, most of them use it. Not all of them. Some of them will just pay me the money each month and they don't really want to do the actual phone in where I speak to them, but a lot of them do. That's a really good way of keeping on top of what they really want and making you the sort of go-to person, if you know what I mean. You become like the tech guy, and hopefully you won't end up trying to fix their printers and things, but you are their port of call, and I think the more of that you can do, the better, because there's always something additional that they're going to want round the corner. And like we discussed in an episode a few weeks ago, I think a website has a shelf life.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 2 years. And really, you want them to be coming to you as a default when 2 years are up. And if you've spoken to them on a monthly basis, I think that is incredibly likely to happen.
Yeah, all changing on. When we had that, I remember that episode, and I was thinking what we didn't mention is that part of that long-term relationship does allow people to adjust their websites over time by having that relationship with us and save on that big rebuilds cost. Yeah,
I've got a call tomorrow Friday. I don't know. Anyway, this week where somebody they've clearly in the stuff that they've sent me, they've made it obvious they want to try and get the bare bones of another page for their website sorted out. So amending it, keeping it up to date, making sure that it fulfills the business need is really useful. And having that face-to-face time with them, I can't see me dropping that. Even if it became less profitable, I think the long tail of that conversation is probably worth doing, because the repeat business will ultimately pay for it. It's kind of like a cost that I can't pin down, I can't put it on a spreadsheet, but I think over time having those weekly conversations, it's a bit like networking. Just keep yourself front of mind.
Yeah, and you said something actually before we press record about the fact that a lot of clients, and this is true, isn't it? See, they're buying a commodity, so they go to you, how much for a website? And I think that's why it becomes quite tricky. We have to, because this is the big beef I have. If I buy a commodity and I go to the checkout with this new bit of tech that I'm going to buy, I really, really hate it when they say, do you want an extended warranty on that?
Yes.
Because I've committed at that point. And it's like saying, actually our product is a load of old rubbish, really. So you'll need this, else things will go wrong. So we and I think that's one of the problems, isn't it? Because they are going for a commodity and we have to shift that focus, don't we, to a long-term relationship. I think most of us. I
absolutely agree. And I'm not really good at eating my own dog food, because if I do buy like a tumble dryer or washing machine, there's no way I'm going to buy the insurance. That's just not me. But yet I talk about care plans. I suppose the difference though is trying to shift the client from viewing it as a commodity, a one-time purchase, and trying to shift their focus into, look, this is an evolving platform that you are using to market your business. You're not gonna write a bunch of you're not gonna go to a printer's shop, get a bunch of flyers, hand all the flyers out, and never do that again, and expect your business to blossom. It's not going to work. You've got to, if that's your strategy, creating flyers, you're going to have to be creating flyers for the rest of your business's life and giving them out for the rest of your business's life. And it's the same with the website. And I don't have that conversation enough, actually. As we're talking, I'm just thinking I really should be talking about that from the outset, like you do, much more.
Yeah, well, I need to be doing more of it as well, and getting the message right. Do you know that a couple of things that I've seen people do on this, and I've been tempted myself, if I haven't done, I think fail, and that's discounting to try and get people on a plan. Yeah. Because I think, if you're trying to value this ongoing relationship, you've just devalued yourself.
Yeah, and never done that, no.
No, and I think the other thing is, which I've got into as well, is adding more bloody features to that table. Well, that's on your plan, Oh, we got 2 more training videos. I've got this special plugin for security. We've got some analytics. Oh, they just keep adding to that bloody long list.
Yeah, I agree. Table. Yeah, I know what you mean. I've kept my list what it was right from the beginning. I don't really change it too much. Having said that, I'm happy with the way it is. But you're right. The temptation is just to keep adding things in as new things come. In fact, there's a whole load of things I could add into my care plans because of the constant march of technology. You know, new plugins have come along that have meant that I could actually add that as a bolt-on service for a care plan, but I don't. Maybe it's time for me to look at those again.
Yeah, maybe. I just think we probably nailed it, really. It's about the conversation, isn't it, that we have with the clients about that's going to display the value. If we can convince them not to see it so much as a product, we're probably halfway there.
Yeah.
So we make the mistake. I did, certainly, and I've still got it in my tables, adding more stuff on. Oh, this will add more value. But they don't care about that stuff.
No, they really don't. And that's what I was trying to say earlier. They're either a salaried person who just wants rid of it and wants somebody to do it for them, or they're terrified and they don't really care about all those features. But that's where your videos and things come in. If you constantly updating some channel where you can educate them to the future possibilities, that really helps as well. Right. Go on. You were going to say
we're done.
I think so. I think we are. Okay, great. In which case we will say thank you. Good discussion. Thanks, David. And we'll go to the interview, shall we?
Yep.
Hello there, and thank you for making it to the interview part of the podcast. Today, all the way from North America, we have Adam Walker. Hello, Adam.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going. It really is going. That's about as much as I can say for it. Adam and I met in London what are we talking? A couple of months ago now at the...
Seems like a couple of months ago.
Yeah, WordCamp in London, where he was able to demonstrate to me just how good he is at Jenga.
Giant Jenga.
You remember,
right?
Giant Jenga. Yeah, but that's not the reason we've got him on the podcast. That wouldn't last 2 minutes. We're actually on the podcast to talk about something which genuinely is cool. He's got a website. Well, I say he. It might develop in a moment that it's him and a bunch of other people, but it's called 48 in 48. So it's the numerals 48 in 48.org. No spaces, nothing like that. And this is such an interesting idea. I could do it a disservice, but Adam, do you want to take it and just tell us briefly what it is?
I'm tempted to let you do it a disservice, but
okay.
I guess I can. So 48 in 48, we are a charity, and we host events worldwide to build 48 charity websites in 48 hours. So it's one concentrated weekend of work from a Friday night to a Sunday night that involves usually around 100 volunteers that are in the professional marketing space. So don't think coders so much as sort of constructors. So it's all WordPress based. We do use page builders, and we've got kind of a selected series of plugins that we have available and ready to go. And we are constructing 48 sites for 48 charities in 48 hours.
That is just awesome. I mean, I've often pondered about the philanthropic nature of, websites and whether I should be doing charity work and stuff. But this is incredible. I mean, if it
just
was
do 48 and 48.
Well, yeah, exactly. I was thinking, if I set this up, it'd be 1 in 96 or something.
Right. Well, that's what happened before, right? I think that's what we've all been looped into. Is we get into these situations with charities where we want to do good, and then we find ourselves sort of dragged along this process 6 months later with a bunch of meetings and a bunch of calls and all that sort of stuff, and nothing's ever really getting done. And so our idea for this was, let's make the most impact possible for these marketers where they can really make a difference, but then they can stop at the end of the weekend. I think that's really the benefit of it, is that you can come in, you can use your experience to build and do good in the world by building websites, and then you can be completely done and hands-free and out the door and feel great about it because you've actually completed the task. You've handed over the project. The sites actually go live at the event. So it's literally done. And we have follow-up support for those nonprofits, or charities, I should say. We call them nonprofits in the States here. So charities.
Okay. Yeah. Nonprofits, charities, same thing. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so the charities do have support, but the volunteers are not responsible for that support.
How on earth did you arrive at the number 48 in 4? I mean, I know there's 48 hours
it's
in,
a gimmick,
in 2
of course,
days.
right?
That's very honest.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's just be truthful here. So my co-founder, it was actually really his idea, and he came to me and he said, "Okay, Adam, you build websites," and he had built websites in the past, but he'd moved on to mobile apps. He's got a mobile app studio here in Atlanta, and he came to me and he said, "Hey, how many websites can we build in a weekend? Can we build 10? And he played this game with me. He already had a number in his head, right? And I said, yeah, we can build 10. And he said, okay, how about 25? And yeah, we can build 25. Well, how about 45? Well, okay, yeah, we could probably build 45. Okay, how about 50? Can we build 50 websites in a weekend? I'm like, well, look, let's just stop there. I think so. And he said, okay, let's back it down to 48 and 48. That sounds better for marketing. So,
Plus the domain was available.
exactly, that's right. I think he might have already purchased it by that time. I'm not sure how much he suckered me into it, but it was something like that.
I mean, the process of it seems incredible to me. You pick a location somewhere on Earth. I mean, it's largely, from what I see on the website, it feels like it's North America largely, with expanding out into places like London in, I think, November, from what you said to me before we started the call. What do you do? Do you hire one room and stick all the volunteers in that room? Or is it like some kind of big Zoom session where everybody's, on some sort of big webinar call? How does it actually look and work?
Yeah, we try to have everybody on site. So there are a few sort of virtual volunteers, but it's very, very, very few. I'd say less than 5%. So we go to a city. We really want to engage with the marketing community in that city in particular. And we want to invite them to come and be a part of this in person. So for the London event, for example, we're going to have it at IBM's IX facility, which I think is right in Waterloo area. And, really nice facility, great location. And, we'll have 100 people, packed in there, broken off into teams. And we do fun things. And we do kind of games, or what we call sort of like moments of joy, where we like do goofy stuff and giveaways, but then we kind of break out into teams and have a lot of fun that way. We also tend to have very good food at the events as well. So lots of food, lots of Red Bull. But and I should say along with that, no one really stays the 48 hours either. So that's another kind of misconception that's helpful to know. Like, everybody ends up leaving to sleep. I don't think anybody really wants to go 48 hours straight building a website. But so everybody sleeps in some capacity, whether it's at the location or they have a hotel nearby or they have a home, within close distance.
Oh yeah, because can you imagine the errors creeping in the 47th and 48th?
Yeah, the quality assurance testing at the end of the event would be terrible if everybody's going, all right, there's hour 46. It looks great. We're done.
Yeah. We just want to go home.
Where's the beer?
Yeah. So I'm imagining there's all these people in a room, all with a laptop, eager to get going on hour zero. How do you even organize that? So you've got 48 website projects. We'll come to how they get queued up in a minute, but you've got 48 projects that you need to be done. How do you organize who's going on what?
So we typically have teams constructed before the event, and we have project managers that are over those teams before the event. And so the teams have had at least a little bit of collaboration pre-event, like at least one conference call, for example. And so when they come to the event, really the first hour or two is kind of acclimating to the space, kicking off, eating dinner, and then getting with your team and starting to look through the documents that are provided from the nonprofit. So we have a whole process the nonprofits go through to provide documents to be ready for the event. So it's like there's a branding document, there's a website content document, that sort of things. And so the teams are already aware of one another. And a lot of teams will actually even sign up together. So like, for example, an agency will often bring one large team of people or two smaller teams of people. And then like IBM, for example, we're hosting it at IBM. I assume they're going to have a team of several people. And here in Atlanta, we had teams from IBM and from State Farm and UPS and Home Depot. And so a lot of these larger companies that have marketing departments will bring teams too. But then in addition to that, there's also a lot of freelance people that are individuals that will join up and just say, hey, I'm not a part of a team, sign me up with somebody, and they'll get put together into teams based on their skill set. And so then they'll meet one another pre-event also on a phone call, and then, meet each other in person at the event.
Okay. So the 48 in 48 is literally, there's probably actually 48 in about 6,000, because there's probably an awful lot of preamble and phone calls going on organized by you and your colleagues, just so that 48 is proper work time and not faffing about like what should we have over here and who should be on our team and what color palette do they want and so on. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's the 48 hours are to build the website, but the preparation for the website for both the team and for the charity all happens before the event.
That's all done. So if I was to put out a call and say, people of the internet, we would like you to join this project. Who are the ideal people that you, I guess want? Maybe there's a hole in the sort of the army of people that you've got, or maybe you've got particular badges. You know, we want marketers, or we want web designers, or we want coders, or I don't know. Who do you want?
So yes, everybody you just said, that sounds good. Let's get them signed up. So no, we want marketers. We want people that understand marketing and messaging. I think that's really important. So for example, I love having WordPress people at the event, but I can also have an event with a whole bunch of people that have never touched WordPress before, and I can train them quickly. We have a method for training them quickly enough to use the tool set to build the sites, even with very little WordPress knowledge. So I find that it's really important to have people that deeply understand WordPress at the event to offer a more deep level of support. But then there can be people there that have never even touched WordPress before that we can train along the way. So we need people. We need that mix. We need a mix of people that really genuinely understand marketing and how does the website need to be constructed? And what do we need to say at the top? And how do we make sure this messaging is really going to impact their audience? And what is the call to action? And those kinds of things. So that's kind of that graphic design, content, sort of marketer sort of person. But then we also need those WordPress people. And they may be the same people, right? That have a multiple kind of areas of specialty, but then we need the WordPress people that can actually help to implement some of that stuff. Somebody that's actually used Gravity Forms before, for example, is very helpful at the event. You know, so I would say to get more simple for your question, I think we need graphic designers, we need technical digital marketers that understand the messaging side. We need WordPress people. To some degree, some front-end people that understand CSS and JavaScript are helpful as well. I'd say those are kind of the four key areas. And then of course, project managers. We have to have project managers to actually run the project. So our goal is to have about 24 project managers per event, so they'll manage more than one project each.
And do they sort of go off and sit in little areas like, okay, you're on X website and you're on Y website, you go over there, and your project manager will float around and make sure that things are ticking over? Or do you all just sort of mingle in a room and everybody kind of like has a go at anything? So for example, if I'm an expert at Gravity Forms, do I flip from project to project doing the Gravity Forms bit, or how does it work?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with yes for that. So yeah, it's really a little bit of both. So people do hive off into their teams and sort of cluster around and get things built. But then if there are people that are specialists in a particular thing or really understand something better than than everyone else does, they do sort of get tagged to sort of float around and help fix those minor things.
So it all sounds like a lot of fun, but fun is entirely not the point. The point is to build these websites. Right. Who are you building them for? How do they alert you that they need this website? Is there a particular area of charity work, non-profit work that you're interested in? Is it like the environment? Is it animals? Is it what?
It's everybody. Right. We want to serve every type of charity that's doing good. So there are a few criteria to this, and I should also mention it's actually surprisingly hard to get charities to sign up for getting a free website.
Wow.
There are a number of hurdles sort of to that. One of the hurdles is the idea that it's sort of too good to be true. If it's too good to be true, it's not true. Sort of of thing.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's also just the hurdle that most charities that are smaller, and that's who we're really working with, tend to be so busy doing the good that they do in the world that they're unaware of the opportunities that are around them. And so what I really desperately need from your audience really are two things. One is help us find the charities that can sign up and really benefit from this. And number two, come volunteer at the event. So back to the charities and what the criteria is. It's actually pretty simple criteria. So we'd like for the charities to be on the smaller side. So we want them to have under a 3 million budget typically. So that's not necessarily a hard and fast rule, but any charity that has, a multi-million dollar budget is going to have website needs that are well beyond what can be accomplished in 48 hours. And honestly, they should have a budget line item to pay for those needs too. So we really want to work with charities that just can't afford good marketing. We do want the charities to have a staff person of some kind. Again, that's a little bit of a flexible rule too. But the idea there being that if there's a staff person, they can manage the website, they can grow the website, they can see this thing continue to grow for a longer period of time. And then, lastly, the charities have to generally be non-religious, non-political. So we're not going to do a place of worship website. We're not going to do a very, very fringe political group website. We're going to avoid very fringe, scary issues, and we're going to avoid sort of general religious stuff, and we're going to take everybody in between, 100%.
Do you invite that person from the organization to come along to the event and be a part of the build and put their ideas into how it's going at the time?
Man, that'd be a nightmare, wouldn't it?
Yes. I was wondering that exact thing.
No, so we do this. We love the nonprofits, and we want the teams to meet the charities because we want there to be a connection there between the volunteer team and the charity. But so the charities are invited in on Saturday to meet the team, to see progress on the website, and then we actually do a training with the charities for about 3 hours about just general digital marketing. So how do you tell your story? What should you be considering with social media? How do you manage your new website? What are some best practices for creating content? Those types of things. And so we bring the charities in. They do a meet and greet for 30 minutes with their teams. Then we sort of usher them away to this training, and they do the training and have a really good time. Usually they'll sort of float back in to say hello to their teams one more time on the way out the door, and then we usher them away again so that the teams can actually get back to work and get stuff done.
Is there any ongoing relationship after the website 48 hours is over? So, for example, we all know what it's like. Despite the best training in the world, a need arises 6 minutes after the guys have left their 48-hour session. Something breaks. I didn't understand it. I never wrote the notes down. Blah blah blah.
Right.
How do they manage that going forwards?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. There are volunteers that will choose to remain in contact with their charities, and they can help, and that's a complete a choice of the volunteer themselves. It's not a choice of anyone else, and we tell the charities that they should expect to not be in contact with the volunteers after the event. So that's one option. However, probably the better answer is we do a couple of things. After the event, we have what we call post-event support for the next week, and that's kind of like a wrap-up volunteer team that helps to run through issues for a week after the event. So we tell the nonprofits, like, listen, when your site goes live on Sunday, it's probably going to be about 90% complete. We recognize that there's going to be a couple of things here and there, and that's okay, and you shouldn't freak out. And here's where you go to submit travel tickets for that, and we've got a volunteer team that's going to help you finish that out. So then after that's done, after that week, then we have continued support through a partnership with GoWP. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Yeah. They're great support guys. And so they help us to support for 30 days after the event. Huh. So it's the charities stay on our platform for 30 days after the event. They've got free support, and I should say free limited support through that GoWP. So GoWP really answers a lot of questions. They can't do a lot of things because there's just too many to do. But there is at least support there. And then after that 30 days, the nonprofits are welcome to stay on our platform and pay us for hosting and maintenance and support and all that stuff. Or they can zip up their files and go anywhere they want. And we actually even have created a partnership with GoDaddy where GoDaddy's giving charities free hosting for a year if they're a 48 and 48 charity. And so we're not trying to lock charities into staying on our hosting. In fact, I'd kind of like it if they don't, because it's less headache for me to deal with. So, so they have the option. I think maybe 10% stay with us, and that's fine. And then everybody else goes, wherever they'd like to go. Yep. And they're great. And the nice thing about even transferring is that GoWP also kind of has a deal where they help us, they help charities migrate their website for $100 US, which is, for migrating a website is next to nothing.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep.
So I always tell the charities, like, listen, if you're going to migrate your website, just pay the money and be done with it. It's just going to be better for you.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can pay somebody else a lot more after the fact.
A lot more.
Yeah. And so I'm imagining this 48 hours. Is it? I'm just trying to think if I could pull that off. Somebody said to me, I've got to have a website in 48 hours. Could I pull that off by myself? I'm imagining as the 48 hours approaches, everything gets a bit frenetic and a bit stressful. Is it like that, or is it there's a general calm and serene atmosphere?
No, it's actually really fun. I think most of our volunteers sort of recognize like this has been done before, right? So we just finished our 10th event overall. So we started off with one event in year one, and we continue to ramp up. So this year we'll have 6 events. Next year I think we'll have either 8 or 9. And so we've got a lot of experience under our belts, and our volunteers recognize that. And so there's an anticipation to it, but there's not a frenzy to it. It's very methodical. We sort of know what's coming. We can walk volunteers through it. So it's not stressful really at all. It's really, I think I'd say it's more fun than stressful. Certainly for me anyway.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Yeah. And do you ever have things that are unfinished, dare I ask, after 48 hours?
Oh yeah. And that's why we created that volunteer team for the week after, because there's always something that just gets completely missed or something like that. Because these are people that, they're volunteers, right? They're doing their very best, but there's always going to be either something small or large that gets missed. I've gone onto sites and there's still lorem ipsum on a homepage, and I'm like, oh, come on, guys. And so I will say that's gotten a lot better because we have a better quality assurance testing process on Sunday than we used to have. So I would say that the last 2 events in particular, we've had almost 0 of that sort of thing happening.
Nice.
Because we've had like a whole quality assurance team just really running through the sites over and over and over and over again, making notes. We use Trello to make notes so everybody can see them.
Yep.
And so we're just constantly in Trello making notes and just improving. And I'd say our last event had the least issues of all of our events by far, which is pretty amazing.
So you use Trello as a live task assignment sort of thing. So, if I'm working on X website over here, every hour or 2, I'll just look at Trello, and hopefully one of your quality assurance guys has updated something and said, there's lorem ipsum on the homepage.
Yeah, so every one of the 48 sites has its own Trello board with a series of cards that are in columns related to discovery, build, whatever, plugins, features, that sort of thing.
Do you have a fairly tight hold on what the charities can ask of you? So, for example,
yes.
is there an anecdotal limit of page numbers?
Yes.
An anecdotal limit of specs and things like, we're not building Facebook here, ladies and gentlemen. We're 5-page website, please, something like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there has to be, right?
Of course.
And that's the worst nightmare when we get into a weekend and realize there's a nonprofit that has a 50-page website, and somehow they expect that all 50 pages are going to be, migrated and live and formatted and everything else. Like, that's just not doable. So we do I think that's a 10-page limit. Maybe an 8-page limit. I have to look at it, but I believe it's a 10-page limit. And we let them know, like, we're only doing these. And there might be an import that has more pages if you had a previous WordPress site or something, but we're only going to look at 10 pages total. That's all we can do in a weekend. And as far as features go, like, there's a pretty clear list of features that we're able to support. And then a pretty clear, disclaimer of what we cannot support beyond that. So we're not going to support like deep CRM integrations with crazy APIs. Like, I'm sorry, we just can't do that in 48 hours.
I'm interested also to know about your technology stack. What is in the default install that these guys will sit down? I'm talking about WordPress, of course. We'll sit down and be playing with. Like, you mentioned a page builder, you mentioned a form builder. Can you run through that? Because that would be really interesting to me.
Yeah, so I don't know that I know all of them off the top of my head. I know several. So I should say this. So what we built is a WordPress multi-tenancy setup. So it's not multi-site.
Yes.
It's a multi-tenancy install. It's built on DigitalOcean, so we can spin up new servers. I guess DigitalOcean calls them droplets.
Yep.
On the fly, we can add resources on the fly as needed, and we can spin up. Basically 48 of the exact same site, more or less instantaneously.
Yeah, it's very quick.
It's really, really great. It took us a while to sort of build out the whole multi-tenancy thing, but it's worked out great. And so as a part of that, we also have the platform fully and completely locked down. So there's no adding plugins, there's no adding themes to this, which means that we're never going to have a team go buy some terrible theme on ThemeForest and use it for the event, which is great because we don't have to deal with that craziness, right? So really, as far as themes go, we really just have one, which is Beaver Builder. We only use Beaver Builder. The Beaver Builder theme and the Beaver Builder plugin is our page builder of choice. And they've been great supporters. Robbie from Beaver Builder is on our national committee, and he's really helping us out a lot. And So that's the builder side. And then on the plugin side, it's kind of, again, it's locked down. You can't add any plugins to it. At the event, inevitably, someone will ask us to add plugins. And I'd say about 95% of the time, the answer has to be no.
Yeah.
There are a couple of fringe cases where they make a really good argument, and then one of our developers will go add something to the platform, but that's pretty rare. But I mean, it's got the typical stuff you'd expect, like gravity forms, Yoast. It's got, we do have several premium plugins that we use, like Beaver Builder Pro is one of the premium plugins.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, and we have all those licenses covered, and so when the nonprofit remains on our platform, all those licenses remain covered for the duration of them being on our platform. When it goes off, then of course the charity would then have to buy their own licenses to get their own updates and that sort of thing. And we let them know that up front, but I mean it's typically very, very cheap to do that.
Yeah.
Any site's probably using maybe 2 premium theme or premium plugins, and it's going to be really cheap to buy 2 licenses typically. So, and I'm trying to remember it. I'm honestly drawing a blank on there's like 30 or 40 plugins, and I can remember like 2 right now.
Oh, really? Wow, 30 or 40. That is quite a lot.
I may be exaggerating. It might not be 30 or 40. It might be like it's definitely 15 or 20, I'd say. But I'm honestly having trouble remembering. I'm gonna see if I can log in as we're talking here and recall what any of them happen to be. I'll let you know if I manage to do that.
Do you find that everybody is sort of satisfied at the end? I mean, we mentioned that some things might be 90% there. And obviously they've written their brief.
You mean the charities?
Yeah,
or the volunteers?
The charities. Well, the volunteers, frankly, they're volunteering.
Volunteers are very satisfied. They have a blast.
And the charities themselves, do they tend to sort of say, "Oh, that's so cool, thanks a lot, brilliant"?
It's interesting. I would say we have probably about a 90% satisfaction rate with the charities. So, and what's interesting about that is that there are a few that are vocal about their happiness. I'd say most of them are kind of quiet. So they sort of are happy to. It's like this relief almost. Like there's like, whoo, I'm done. Finish the marathon, and they're just kind of off and home. And there's a few that can be unhappy from time to time, and we certainly work hard to support them. And I would say we do a good job of that the large majority of the time. There's always a percentage of people that are just never going to be happy at all, and there comes a point where you have to recognize that, unfortunately. So but it's rare, and I'd say for the most part, there's a lot of graciousness and a lot of excitement among the charities that we work with.
Where, just in case we've got the international audience, we've got people from all over the place listening to this, actually. Where are the ones in the future? We mentioned London later this year, 2018. Have you got any more lined up?
We want to go, we want to go everywhere, really. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to gain momentum and work out the systems, processes, and technology in familiar and easy territory, right? So that's, as you mentioned, most of the events are in the States. That's because the States are going to be a lot easier for us to produce events. We don't have to figure out new things. We are expanding and branching out into London because we wanted to try that and felt like, there's not a language barrier, so that's got something going for it. And let's see where we can get with that. Ultimately, though, by 2025, we really want to be in 48 cities worldwide in 1 year. Wow. So we want to be everywhere. We want to be all over Europe. We want to be in Asia. We want to be in South America. We really want to serve globally with what we're doing. But we got to get the technology and the processes built to the point, and the systems down to the point where we know we can scale this in mass, and we can add 15 cities next year, not 5 or 3 or whatever. So I would say keep an eye out. We're aggressively growing. For now, we'll grow some more in the U.S. We might look at Canada a bit. We might look at another European city. That's kind of similar to London as well, but I don't think we'll get too aggressive with growth probably until the next 2 to 3 years, and then we'll start kind of going and getting more aggressive, going into areas that are different languages and that sort of thing.
Does this require you and your colleagues to get on a plane? Are you personally involved in being in the room at the time, or are you hoping to grow it to the point where I'm going to use the word affiliate. That's the wrong word entirely, but do you know what I mean? Where somebody could become a sponsor of an event, or a proprietor of an event, say in a UK city, and they would go under the auspices of 48 and 48, but would manage it, and you could stay at home and do an event at the same time.
Yeah, that's the goal. We're not there yet, but that's 100% my goal, is that these will be run by volunteers with no need for our team to travel. And then we can create the support infrastructure around it. We can create the technology. We can help round up the charities, but then ultimately would be a team of volunteers actually leading the charge in their local city. Because that's really kind of the idea. Like the dream is that we want local volunteers serving local charities that are serving their local city. Like that's the perfect scenario.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah.
And that's not perfect yet. We don't, for example, we don't have enough charities signed up. So I doubt, for example, in London that every single charity will be in London right now. Hopefully most of them will be in the UK, but they won't all be located in London. And there might even have to be some from other parts of the world too, depending on how many signups we get, right? So, but as we expand, as we get better marketing, more PR, more exposure, we can get more and more hyper local, where we have London people serving London charities that are serving London people, right? And that's kind of the long-term dream.
Does this, if you set yourself up in London, is the intention therefore to kind of make that an annual event, a bit like a word camp or something? Yeah. So.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, once we've got the ball rolling, there's no need to stop, right? So it's like, well, we've already done the hard work. We've already created the partnerships. We've already met great people like yourself, so I can see myself like, hey, let's do a podcast again next year and talk about that.
Yes, it'll be 95 in 95.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've already done the hard work, right? And so let's keep going and see what we can do to make it even better the next year. And that's what we find is that, the first year in a city is very, very exciting, very new, very fresh, really, really interesting. And then, but it gets better and better and better and better as people get more and more involved and they come back year over year. We have people in Atlanta that have been at every single Atlanta event since we've started it, because it's so much fun.
I have had a look at some of the sites, and to be honest with you, it's impressive. It is impressive what you can do in 48 hours. You look at them and you think, man alive, that looks like somebody sweat the details. And sometimes it's quite nice with that pressure, and also with a strange set of people that you don't normally sit with, and that creates an interesting dynamic. It kind of feels like this whole podcast has been leading up to this next sentence, and the next sentence is: how do you get in touch with you guys and volunteer your charity or yourself?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. It's a long sales pitch here. I like that. So you go to the website, 40 it's the numerals 48in 48in48.org. And you can click on volunteer or on our nonprofit, and then sign up that way. And we're ready. We've got everything ready. We're certainly been working on being GDPR compliant, so you don't have to worry about that. We are there. We've spent a lot of time on that, and yeah, we're really, really excited about it. I've gotten to travel to London twice now, getting ready for this event, and I've met just some of the most amazing people. And I'm really, really looking forward to coming. I am going to come back for the London event, and we'll be there personally. And I really just can't wait. It's going to be so much fun.
Nice. And if, for example, say that I'm from, I don't know, Australia, or I'm from France or something, and I don't see the location on your website. You mentioned earlier you get a few people logging in through some other system or other, maybe Skype or whatever you've got going.
Yes.
Are you actively looking for those people as well, or are you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they can sign up if they want to. If they don't want to, sign up for a specific city, they can sign up sort of as other, and we can pull them in the loop as a virtual volunteer, and then they can help out either during a 48-hour event. So if they want to just be an off-site virtual volunteer for say the London event or the Atlanta event, they're welcome to do that. Alternatively, they can be a part of the team that helps with the cleanup effort, after the event. So too, there's a lot of different opportunities there. For them to plug in and help out.
It's a genuinely cool project. The philanthropic nature of it, the fact that you're giving an awful lot in such a short space of time. I love the fact that you're giving away a weekend where, other initiatives like this, it feels like you're giving away a large proportion of your year.
Like months.
Yeah, exactly. And little dribbles, a couple of hours here and a couple of hours there, whereas this is one big hit. Yeah. You'll feel good about yourself. You'll have done some good for a community, an organisation, a charity, a non-profit somewhere in the world. It's a fantastic initiative. I applaud you for doing it, and I would encourage anybody listening to this podcast to go to 48in48.org, reach out to Adam and his colleagues, and get yourself onto an event as soon as you possibly can.
I'd love that.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Adam. I have no doubt that we'll be hearing more about this in the future.
That sounds great. I really appreciate you having me. This was a lot of fun.
Take care.
And today's end, in fact, is about Gutenberg. I'm sure everybody knows that Gutenberg is something that's going to roll out into WordPress version 5, and it's going to replace the default editor. But I thought we'd just say about the name, if those who don't know why it became Gutenberg. And it comes from Johannes Gutenberg. I had to look up how to say his name. And he was a 15th century German blacksmith who introduced printing to Europe with the printing press, and more specifically, movable type printing press, which is made up of blocks. So that's my understanding, Nathan, that we've got they've taken that name because the connection with publishing and blocks.
The way it's pronounced is interesting, because I say Gutenberg because I live in the north of England, and G-U-T is gut.
Yes.
Whereas everybody else seems to say Gut with a G-O-O-T, Gutenberg. What, you've just pronounced it Gutenberg. Is that how I should actually pronounce it?
Well, I think so. I mean, I've been looking up the pronunciation for his name, and that comes out. But of course, it is. I think those online helps are by Americans, but it's probably better because it sounds less, as UK folks, it sounds less like a SS officer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Gutenberg sounds. And
Yes, it does. You're right.
I said I was going to disable Gutenberg for my clients, and the only comment I got back, temporarily when it comes out, was that yes, please, it's a terrible name.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it was the sort of it's like it's a project name that shouldn't really reach a wider audience. It should have been like this secret covert name. Okay, we're working on Project Gutenberg, and then when it's finally released, it's just called the editor. The new WordPress editor, and then after 6 weeks, drop the word new.
Yes,
but it has to be called something. But I think it is gonna. Yeah, I read an article recently where it was about the most important inventions of all time, and the printing press by Gutenberg, Johannes Gutenberg, came in at second place because it obviously enabled ordinary mortals who weren't in any way connected with the aristocracy or what have you to read for the first time and become educated. So that's terribly important. Have a guess what came first?
Well, I don't know.
The light bulb.
Oh, the light. Yes, of course.
The light bulb. And the argument was that suddenly humans didn't have to operate on a 12-hour day. They could work on a 24-hour day suddenly. So we doubled the amount of time that we could get up to stuff like printing things.
Yeah. So there's another interesting thing about printing press when we look at privacy now, because it's often attributed as the start of privacy, the idea that you can have secret information, if you like, that only certain people like adults can have. And the concept of privacy kind of developed out of the printing press.
There you go. You could stash it away. Yeah, that's true. Everything else privately was in your own head until that point. All right. Go on.
I've got another bonus.
Go on.
Something I read, which I thought was interesting. He spent so much money creating the printing press, that he lost his own printing business to pay off his debts.
Oh, no. Oh, no. It was terribly laborious, wasn't it? You had to select a bunch of like wooden pre-carved letters. Maybe they were metal, I don't know. And arrange them all, and then you had to wet this piece of leather and sort of press it onto the letters, and then you could print one page or whatever at a time, and then if you wanted to change the texture, to manually pull out all the letters. Terribly inefficient by today's modern standards. But
no light bulb.
No, exactly. You only had to do it during the day. Oh dear, egads. Right, shall we say this is the end? Thank you everybody for listening to the WP Builds podcast once again. And amazing if you got right to the end. I don't know exactly how many people ever managed to listen to right to the end, but there you go. Please go over to wpbuilds.com/subscribe, and all the links, far too many links in a really ugly way, are presented there for you. And remember, we've got a deals page now, which is wpbuilds.com/deals. Great. Okay, it only remains to fade in the cheesy music and say goodbye from me, Nathan Wrigley.
And it's goodbye from me, David Wamsey. Bye-bye.
Tatty bye.